Greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Sam Olukotun, and I'm here with Ariel Aswad from Corologics. And,
Hello.
and today we're going to be talking about how to improve and power your login with ML-powered tools and integrating that with Circle CI. And so without further ado, we're just going to jump right in here. And so part of what we're going to be covering as part of the schedule today is we're going to just be going through a brief introduction. So I'm going to be talking about what Circle CI does and then give a brief overview of Orbs. And then I'm going to be passing the control over to Ariel, who's going to be talking about Corologics. He's going to give us a brief overview of the product and then talk about how Corologics and Circle CI Orbs play together. And after that, we're going to open the floor for Q&A. Just a quick note on the Q&A session. As we go through the webinar, if you have any questions that come up or any concerns you'd like us to address, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom view window. And at the end of the webinar, we're going to collate all of those questions and then answer them together. Okay, so diving right in, Circle CI, just a brief overview. As a company, our mission here is just to make it as easy as possible for development teams to go from having an idea to delivering that idea to their customers. And just a brief background on the company. We were founded in 2011. And right now we're sitting at a little bit over 290 employees who are spread across 5 continents. So we are a growing company with the presence across the globe. And in addition to that, we help teams build better software quicker, more reliably. So we're trying to make things accelerate the pace of development without compromising quality. And also we're currently the world's largest shared CI/CD platform. We're running over 1 million builds each day on our platform right now on our cloud offering. And so right down there, we have Coinbase, Cruise, Spotify. This is just a highlight of some of our customers that currently build on our platform. So talking about Circle CI itself and where we fit in the tool chain, you can imagine Circle CI as the orchestration service that sits between all the code you write on your repository versus between your code and where you want to deploy, so all your deployment endpoints. So you can think of Circle CI as being intermediate between your GitHub and your Bitbucket, and then all your deployment environment. So if you're going to be doing Docker, Heroku, if you're going to be hitting things on Kubernetes, for instance, you can just think of Circle CI as a platform that allows you to automate your building, your testing, and your delivery of your application from your repo into your application deployment environment. And with that said, I'm just going to give a quick overview of what the product looks like for those people who might not be familiar with Circle CI yet. And what I am showing here, once this page loads, so this is an example of just a workflow. So this is a diagram that's been generated from a workflow that I run on one of my side projects. And what I want to show here is the ability to actually parallelize some jobs here. So what this offers you is the ability to improve or to customize how quickly, to tune how quickly or how well your pipeline runs if you can have jobs that are not dependent on each other all run in parallel. So I'm taking advantage of that feature here when I'm building several images, and I'm also taking advantage of that here when I'm tagging as well as deploying. One other thing of note to point out here is that each one of these jobs, so each of these boxes, you can think of them as independent, discrete tasks you want to perform as part of your build pipeline. And so each one of these jobs can be configured with its own execution environment. On Circle CI, the environment will support Windows, Linux, Mac OS, as well as doing things in the Docker build also. And so that's just in general, that's just in general of what the infrastructure can do. If you're looking at this, for instance, you can see all the time tags on here. It's just another feature that helps team improve and just pay attention to where the bottlenecks might be in their pipeline. And one cool feature I like to show is the ability, how quickly having this workflow view allows you to debug when things go wrong. So for instance, if we take a look at this pipeline over here, if we take a look at this pipeline over here, okay, and as this loads, if you look in here with the test job, if this pipeline ran on, let's say like on a Jenkins or a different platform, for instance, when something goes wrong, the easiest way or the typical way to go figure out or to understand what's going on with the platform, with the pipeline then, would be to go and introspect through logs. On Circle CI, you will get a clear indicator of where things have failed. And furthermore, if I want to debug this particular job, I can click on this one instance here, and it will take me into details of that job. And I get an output for every command that I run as part of that job. And so that makes it easy for me to quickly identify where the problem was, because now I can see that this is the particular command that triggered that failure. And if I want to rerun this to just help me debug it, we have this handy feature here where I can rerun just this job to see if it's going to pass. Like let's say if I have flaky test, for instance, that's something I can quickly suss that out. Or if I want to just I want to rerun the job and then debug it live as it's running, we have this feature that allows you to rerun the job with SSH enabled. So what this does is it kicks up that container with the exact same parameters, reruns that job, but then gives you an SSH port that you can remotely connect into that container and then debug in real time as your builds are running on that container. So just high level, those are some cool features that I like. These are some of my favorite features when I'm working or building things on the platform. And if you have any other questions, we can talk a little bit more about that at the end of the webinar. But one thing I want to point out before we move on is also the fact that everything that happens on CircleCI is managed via a config file that's written in YAML. So all of this is a YAML file that you will check into your code base, to your repo that you want to build on CircleCI. And so as you check in new code and you push things into GitHub or your VCS, all the commands, all the logic, all the builds you want to trigger, all of that logic will be documented in your YAML file. And so this is just like a YAML syntax. You're not learning a new specific language. So this helps in a way to minimize the ramp up time that your development teams will get in terms of just picking up the tool and being able to run with it without needing to onboard themselves onto a new domain specific language, for instance. So going back to our presentation about orbs, when I mentioned that the YAML file, the config file is written in YAML and everything is driven by what you have in that YAML file, one thing we've been able to take out of that, since everything is managed in code, one thing we've been able to do with that infrastructure is that we allow you to now templatize and reuse chunks of that YAML file across multiple config files. So let's imagine a scenario, for instance, where you're working on 3 different projects, but they all have similar build steps, for instance. You don't need to rewrite that build step across all of those config files. You can write it in one place, check it into our orb registry as an orb, and then reuse that orb across your multiple projects. So this is one way to just share and templatize your configuration across multiple teams. So this is just a sample of a config file. So this is similar to a YAML file that I showed as part of the demo. And what we're trying to demonstrate here is that any part of this config file can be templatized. So earlier I mentioned about the execution environment. So this is where the environment where the jobs run, where your build jobs run. And I mentioned we support Linux, Mac, Windows, and Docker. So you can actually parameterize those execution environments as well if those are going to be different or shared across multiple projects. Even things like commands and entire jobs themselves can be written in a way where they take in parameters, and then you can share those across multiple projects or multiple teams. And this just helps with managing your configuration files and minimizing the amount of copy pasting you're doing if you're using shared logic across multiple projects. And so I said like we have an orb registry where you can check in these orbs. And this allows us to work with partners and just other companies and write these orbs and make them available to our customers. So what this screen is showing is just a sample of the customers, the technology partners that we've worked with already to write orbs that integrate with their services. So if you're going to be working with any one of these tools, one thing you can do is search through our orb registry to see how much of that content is already pre-written for you, as opposed to trying to write the logic from scratch again. And so, like as I said, this is just a sample. We do have an extensive partnership and community that we're building to just enable the writing of more orbs and make these more available to customers. So if there's any tool you're using or any third-party service you want to integrate with, even if it's not showing on this slide, what I would recommend is first go to the orb registry, search for that service and see if there's an orb that already exists for it, and then try to leverage the existing configuration before you need to start writing your own orb from scratch. So that's a lot of talking. There's a lot of information in there. If you need more information, if you want to read more documentation, or just read some blog posts on how to use orbs or how some other teams might be taking advantage of this feature in their products or in their pipelines, I have some links in here. This presentation will be shared with you all, and so that will make it easy for you to follow up and check this out. With that said, I'll be passing over to Ariel, who will then be talking about Progologics and how the products integrate with that.
Cool. Thank you very much for the presentation. So I'll start a little, I'm muted by host. Who's the host? Can you unmute my?
Okay, you're unmuted
now. And then you'll need to mute yourself. So I'll start by describing a little more about the problem that companies are facing today with log data, which is just the sheer amount of data that companies need to aggregate, search, visualize, and learn. So most solutions in the market will help you send everything to a single location and then visualize, parse, query, and so on. but you still left with a lot of questions about how you, actually extract insights from that data. So what to analyze, where in the stack to look for, when should you even approach logs? Is it only a reactive tool once you have a production issue, or should you be alerted prior to an issue and actually avoid that issue? And the biggest concern of a lot of companies is, why is a crisis happening? What should they do to actually resolve? And from our research, we found out that a lot of crisis, a lot of issues start by changes that you do to your production, whether it's a new deployment or whether it's a new configuration change. So CoreLogix helps you aggregate all the data, use the CoreLogix orb to send both the console logs for the build and the tag of that new version to CoreLogix. And then CoreLogix will automatically understand what's the impact of each and every new version that you deploy to your production on your software quality. You're in a good company. We serve over 1,000 customers worldwide from various industries, from media to internet or retailers, marketplaces, to SaaS and streaming companies. And now let me show you real quick how it looks like once you implemented the CoreLogix orb. Can you make me the host or allow me to share?
Okay, and try to share.
Great. So let's start off with understanding how you implement the orb. So you go, like Sam explained, you go to the orb repositories in CircleCI website, you search for CoreLogix, and you can really easily see how you start the CoreLogix orb and implement it into your CircleCI account. Once you do that, you'd be able to start streaming logs and tags into CoreLogix. So real quickly about CoreLogix, what you get out of tags. So every time you deploy a new version using the CoreLogix orb, you're going to see this tag appearing here with the name of the version. And basically what CoreLogix will do is will calculate whatever behavior we saw prior and after that tag and let you know what's the impact of that version on your production based on specific environments and components. So whenever you deploy, you have a different release that you're doing, and it has a different application and a different component that is affected. So these tags will be applied per the application component that you've upgraded. Not only that you're going to see the tags on your data and be able to query data by a version, which makes a lot more sense than just querying by time frame. When you go to the CoreLogix tags view, all you need to do to understand the impact of new versions on your production is to simply click the tag. And once you do that, you're going to see exactly what happened ever since you've done this latest upgrade 15 hours ago. So ever since this upgrade, you had no alerts for anomalies. So CoreLogix identifies error trends or broken flows in your software. High severity ratio dropped a little, which is good. CoreLogix automatically clusters your data. So it's very easy to see which errors are the top and common errors that you have, which errors happen more ever since you've done this upgrade, and what are the newly introduced logs. And then you can quickly go and say, just show me new error and critical logs that this version brought to me, and very quickly investigate and see how you want to resolve these issues or maybe roll back. You can also add your own widgets and track your own KPIs every time you deploy a new version. So that capability combined with the anomaly detection that we offer and getting all your logs from CircleCI gives you great control of whatever is happening in your production in the context of your CI/CD pipelines. So for instance, if I go to my repository here, and let's say I want to change the README file. So I'm just going here and saying, let's change the README to say, instead of CoreLogix CircleCI plugin webinar, let's call it online demo. And now I'm going to add my comments, adding a couple of words to README. And this is done live in our webinar. And now I'm going to commit the changes. Once I've done that, oh yeah, we've committed during, have a look for a sec. Let's go back here, start from scratch. So I'm going to edit the README file. Say, this, and second, so, and I'm committing the changes. And let's go back to see my commit. I can see that we have actually 2 commits going, and we can see the different stages. Currently, we've ran the test, deploy, build. Now stats and logs are pending and being sent. If I go to CoreLogix, to the Circle CI dashboard, I can see what's happening right now in live. And when I go to the CoreLogix dashboard, I'm going to already see logs streaming in from Circle CI. So first of all, here's the tag that we just added, and here are the logs. And I can see top errors and some dashboards that we really quickly added, like the workflow IDs, build outcomes, success and failures, repo changed, and the subjects. So like the actual comments that people added to their commit. And then if I go to the log screen, I can quickly look at those 600 different logs that were streamed into CoreLogix from Circle CI. And the great thing about CoreLogix is that we have log aggregation to make it easier for us to even look at those 600 logs, because there are just 31 templates. I see that this type of log with the different variables inside happened 200 times, and then remote something objects, and I can click the variables to see how many counting and how many compressing parameters I had, and I can pin this to my dashboard. I can obviously click the behavior and see exactly how it behaved, and I can see the stats right here. And the great thing about it is that now I have this version benchmark that is also combining with the rest of the data that I'm sending from different sources. I have all the logs that are relevant for this build, so if I had any issues or failures, it's very easy to investigate here. And we made this quick Kibana dashboard sample. Kibana is a part of CoreLogix, so now I can do average build times. I can see comments. I can see how many, what branches were affected. Tags, let's see what tag names were pushed to CoreLogix, whether it was successful or not. If I had failed builds, then I'm going to see them right here. I'm going to see build status. So who's the owner? What's the URL? What is the subject? And what is the status? And how many builds this guy has done that were successful for this build URL. And, it's basically endless. That's a great thing about the Elastic Stack. I can add as many dashboards and visualizations as I want here. And that is also combined with the ability to create alerts. So for instance, if I go here and say, every time something finishes, I want to receive an alert, it's very easy for me to just search that string. And whenever I'm going to get that string searched, I can just click create alert and real quickly define an alert that will be triggered whenever that string is matched again, whether immediately or if it more or less than I wanted to, or CoreLogix can track behavior for me and tell me if it happens more than the usual. And even I can group that by a field. So I can say something like status and say, if status is finished more than the usual, like if I have more than the usual builds per status, notified about it. And also I want to be notified once this is resolved. Of course, I can send it to my Slack or PagerDuty or any type of custom webhook that I want. So the alert will look like this. If we go to the dashboard in CoreLogix now, whenever a new alert is triggered, I'm going to see it in the insights panel. Besides the notification, obviously, that I'm going to get. So I'm going to see every merge to master. So we had 3 in the past few hours. I'm going to see them right here. I'm going to see the tags viewed right here. And if I go to the tags view, it's very easy now to click each and every one of the tags and get this automatic status that we've created. Obviously, that application doesn't have any errors or anomalies that we want to notify on, but I'm going to see newly reduced logs. For instance, these are new logs for that build, the previous builds didn't have these logs in them. So that's how CoreLogix helps you surface issues or problems coming from your build, and also monitor the quality of your deployments. Back to you, Sam.
All right, thank you, Ariel. Okay, thank you, Ariel. And now that concludes the presentation and demo portion of the webinar. Now we're just going to go through and look at take a look at the questions that came in. So a few questions for you, Ariel. We'd like to know, what type of data can you send to CoreLogix?
So everything that I just demonstrated, including the anomalies and data clustering and so on, is completely agnostic to the type of data that is sent. So basically, we integrate with any SDK, any software it doesn't matter what's the coding language or what's the platform that you're running on. We also integrate with standard collectors like Logstash, Fluentd, FileBeat. So it's literally any type of data that you want to send.
I see.
And that data can be correlated with the build logs. So CoreLogix helps you determine two parameters that are called application and subsystem.
Okay.
And these two parameters bucket data under certain environments and components that you run in your production. So for instance, any build that you do to your payment API in production should have the same application name and subsystem name as the logs streamed there. And then you'll get all the anomalies and all the baseline behavior learning done together on these logs. And tags will arrive related to the relevant logs.
Right, got it. Good, interesting. And also, like, how long will this setup take, and like how much change do I have to make to my code base and actually integrate with CoreLogix?
In general, or to this Circle CI orb. So the Circle CI orb is just a couple of minutes. I can show how easy it is to just go to the YAML once you've deployed and decide which parts you want to integrate, whether it's a tag or sending logs or stats. To integrate CoreLogix is as simple as it is to send the logs to any Elk stack. So just go to Logstash, you define your log source, and you install the CoreLogix plugin, which encrypts the data and does compression on that data, so you have less data streaming out. And we usually see about 30 minutes to 1 hour to deploy CoreLogix on a full production environment.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And also, will CoreLogix automatically notify users of abnormal behavior on the platform?
Yes. So CoreLogix tracks two main things. One is the connections between different logs. So CoreLogix will understand which logs should arrive together at a certain time frame, ratio, and order. So if we think about logs coming from Circle CI, we'd probably expect that after all the logs describing the processes, I'm going to see like build completed successfully, and then the stats logs. So let's imagine, for instance, I'm doing hundreds of builds every day. CoreLogix is going to learn that this is how they should look like. And whenever I do a build, but the final log, let's say the stat log or the success log doesn't arrive, CoreLogix will automatically notify me and tie it down to errors that we saw during that time frame from the same component that are abnormal for this hour or abnormal for this process. So it'll be like build failed because of something, whatever exception you guys are throwing into CoreLogix. And that is done on each and every application component that is connected to us. So that's one type of anomaly. The other main type is what we call volume anomalies. So we track the error ratios that we expect to see across different applications and components and API endpoints and let you know once you have a spike. So for instance, one of your API endpoints returned 3 times more 500s than the usual for a Sunday morning. Then we'll notify you and again point out those suspected errors or suspected API calls that we've never seen before.
Got it. Yeah.
And the great thing about the integration with Circle CI is that we tie everything up to the version that you upgrade. So it's not just insights that are out of context. It's actually telling you, ever since you deployed this new version, you have these flows broken, you have these error trending, you have these new errors that you've created, these exceptions happen more than usual. So the idea is that we tie everything up to a cause, and now you know whether you should deploy a new version or maybe roll back.
Okay, all right, so along those same lines then, does CoreLogix notify or does it provide any inputs to developers to just kind of inform them when rolling back would be a good idea?
Yeah, so we expose a couple of APIs, both for alerts and anomalies and attacks.
Okay.
So customers can really easily, once they deploy, create an API call to send them like maybe a Slack summary of 5 minutes after your deployment to production. There are 5 new errors. There are the error ratio rose. Here are the alerts that trigger that you already define on your own.
Got it.
So it's very easy for them to understand that there's some kind of impact that they want to change. And they can set that API to their own threshold. So only send me a Slack message if there was a deployment, and 5 minutes later, there are more than 1,000 new errors.
Right, I see. Got it. Okay, that's pretty cool system. And so let's talk about pricing quickly. Like, what's your pricing model? Is it per project, per user? Like, how does it work on Coralogics?
Yeah, so unlike a lot of different products, a lot of other products, logging products, it's very complicated to price logging products because they have so many different users with so many different use cases and so many different environments connected to Coralogics. So we try to keep it very simple. All that customers need to care about is how much data they send and how long they want to retain it. So all plans include all features, including everything. We don't limit different plans. It's whether you're paying $5 or $50,000 a month. All you need to care about is that you are fitted into your plan, and you can of course upgrade or downgrade based on your needs.
Okay, got it. And is there like a free trial period available for people who want to test it out?
Yes, there are 2 weeks period, very extended trial, so people can test it on large environments.
Right, great. Okay, and so it looks like we just have one last question here, and this is, so will Coralogics help users find issues in a canary or staging environment, for instance?
Yeah, one of the great things that we allow companies to have sub-accounts under Coralogics. So you can have like your staging sub-account or your canary set account, and then you can route your staging logs there together with builds that are done on your staging environment, and then get the status on staging even before you go to production.
Okay.
Another great thing that you have is that you can use application and subsystem name to have both staging and production streaming into the same account, separated by the application tag. And then you can actually compare tags between staging and production. Yeah. Say that same version didn't generate these new errors in staging, but it did in production. Maybe I should add more test coverage or something. Maybe I'm missing out on something.
Okay, wow, that's an awesome feature. Great, okay, so since we have no other questions, then I suppose we can wrap up now. And I'd like to thank you, Ariel, for coming in and for having this talk with us. And also thank you to your team for putting the org together. And for everyone who attended, thank you all. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or to Ariel after this. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.